Yahuwah, we pray. Open you our eyes, that we may behold wondrous things out of your Torah. Your word is a lamp unto our feet, and a light unto our path. For the commandment is a lamp, and the Torah is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. In this video, we'll be discussing one of the disciples of Yahushua the Messiah named Simon. Matthew or Matthew chapter 10 verse 2. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these. The first, Simon, who is called Peter or Kepha, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother. Verse 3. Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the publican, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus. Verse 4. Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. So the particular disciple that we will be discussing is this person called Simon, and in this translation he's referred to as the Canaanite. Again in Mark chapter 3, starting in verse 14. And he ordained 12, that they should be with him, and that he might send them forth to preach, and to have power to heal sicknesses and to cast out devils. And Simon he surnamed Peter, and James the son of Zebedee, and John the brother of James, and he surnamed them Boanerges, which is the sons of thunder. And Andrew, and Philip, and Bartholomew, and Matthew, and Thomas, and James the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, and Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, which also betrayed him, and they went into an house. So again, we see this particular disciple named Simon, who is called the Canaanite in this translation. And we really need to think about how this has been translated into the English. Because what has arisen is a teaching similar to replacement theology. And replacement theology basically teaches that the Christian church has replaced the position of the nation of Israel in the New Testament. So we have a new theology out that's similar to replacement theology, which basically teaches that non-Israelites can convert to becoming Israelites, or basically non-Israelites are the same as bloodline Israelites, native Israelites. And they try to use this understanding of this translation, Simon the Canaanite, to show this. However, what I'm going to show in this lesson is that Simon called the Canaanite in many of these English translations is actually a mistranslation. In that we understand that from the beginning, when the Torah was given to Israel, that Yahuwah stated that there is one Torah both for the native born and also for the foreigner. So any foreigner, any non-Israelite that desires to serve Yahuwah has to do it according to the Torah. However, a non-Israelite does not convert into becoming an Israelite. And again, Israel as a nation has been set apart from all other nations. So the nation of Israel has its own particular purpose. So the nation of Israel will never be replaced by any other nation, and that's what the eternal covenant is about. So these particular 12 that Yahusha chose were all from the southern kingdom of the house of Yehuda, or Judah, as Yahusha himself proclaimed that salvation is from the Yahudim, salvation is of the Jews. So we're going to look at this word that's translated as Canaanite in the previous verses that we read. And the Strong's number for that word is G2581, and that is the Greek Canaanites. Definition has been translated as Canaanite. However, it actually means zealous. Okay, the surname of Apostle Simon, otherwise known as Simon Zelotes. So we'll look at how it's been translated in other verses about the same man. In the previous verses, it's translated as Simon the Canaanite. We'll see in other verses where he's referred to as Simon Zelotes. Okay, so it says it's of Chaldean origin, meaning zealous. Canaanites, an epithet or a nickname. And here is giving you the truth behind the translation here. It says, by mistake, for a derivation from G5477. So it's saying that this word, Canaanites, was translated by mistake into English as Canaanite. But Canaanites does not mean Canaanite. It actually means zealous. Okay, so I will show you that. So we're going to look at the origin of this word Canaanites, which is the H7067. And we go there to it tells us that the actual origin is from the H7065, which is Kana, and the definition is to envy, to be jealous, to be envious, to be zealous. So we see that this Chaldean word, from which is derived the Greek Canaanites, actually means to be zealous. It does not mean Canaanite. Now remember we looked at Canaanites, the word that is translated in English as Canaanite, and it said under the definition that it was translated by mistake for G5477. So we're going to look at this word. Okay, so this word in Greek is Canaan, all right, of Hebrew origin, Canaan or Canaan, the early name of Palestine. So what the concordance is actually telling us is that that term, Simon the Canaanite, is a mistranslation. It was translated wrongly. Canaanites actually means zealous, and it was mistakenly translated as Canaan or Canaanite. But Canaanites and Canaan are two different words. So we're going to look at Luke chapter 6, starting in verse 13. And when it was day, he called unto him his disciples, and of them he chose 12, whom he also named apostles: Simon, whom he also named Peter, and Andrew his brother, James and John, Philip and Bartholomew, Matthew and Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon called Zelotes, and Judas the brother of James, and Judas Iscariot, which also was the traitor. So we see here in Luke that the same disciple in previous passages that we looked at, he was called Simon the Canaanite. Here he's called Simon Zelotes. Simon called Zelotes. Acts chapter 1, starting in verse 13. And when they were come in, they went up into an upper room, where abode both Peter and James and John, and Andrew, Philip and Thomas, Bartholomew and James, and Matthew and James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon Zelotes, and Judas the brother of James. So again, we see that same man in previous passages was called Simon the Canaanite, mistakenly translated as Canaanite. Here is Simon Zelotes. And we will look at that word Zelotes. That's the G2207. Zelotes, a zealot. All right. So a zealot was a Jewish or Yehudi political party of independence. So if you're familiar with the history of the first century Yahudim, or the first century Jews, there was a particular political party called the Zealots, who were adamant about getting Israel independence from the occupying forces of Rome. So Simon, mistakenly called the Canaanite, is Simon Zelotes, which is also what Canaanites actually means. Canaanites means zealous. So we see Simon the Canaanite is a mistranslation. It should be translated into English as Simon the Zealot. So the Greek words Canaanites and Zelotes are synonyms. Canaanites and Zelotes are synonyms. They mean zealous, zealot. And that's the proper translation of Simon the Canaanite. Simon the Canaanite is a mistranslation. So I wanted to put it out there that there's this misteaching that somehow Yahushua chose as one of his 12 a non-Israelite. That is incorrect. We have a clear understanding that both for the non-Israelite and the Israelite, there's one Torah for anyone who wants to serve Yahuwah. However, Yahuwah has made clear distinctions between the nation he has set apart and other peoples. Shema Yisrael. You are the light of the world. Let the love of Yahuwah and light of Torah shine in your hearts. May the face of Yahuwah shine on you. Shalom.